Welcome to the Artist Impact Podcast, helping you gain confidence, grow your talent, and advance your impact. Here are your hosts, Paul Gibbs and Nate Miller.
Hey guys, welcome back.
We are back.
We
Episode,
are.
36?
36. Are you guys counting?
Who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? Yeah. We hope you're doing well wherever you're watching or viewing or both.
Or listening.
Or listening, yeah. Watching, viewing. They were the same thing, weren't they? All right, I forgot to view. Okay. Anyway, all right. Well, we got some great stuff for you this time. We got some more trivia here for you. No fair using your phones, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can. Go ahead. I got some great stuff that we're going to be sharing with you. We're going to continue with our information and tips on band rehearsal or rehearsing by yourself. Either way, you got whatever works. We got. Let's see. We're going to talk. Mate's going to talk about the iPod. And
I found some cool information about that.
The demise, is it? Not really demise.
No, the retirement of it, basically.
Retirement. That's a good word, yeah.
Kind of a cool summary of like all the technology that we take for granted now that the iPod sort of launched. It was really the springboard for a lot of the stuff that everybody uses today.
That's cool.
Whether we realize it or not. So really, some really cool information that we'll be sharing in a few minutes
That's
here.
cool, yeah. And what else we got coming up?
Oh, we got stuff about...
Session players.
Yeah.
How many of you, we'll get to this in a second, but how many of you have worked in a recording studio as a session player? All right, we'll get back to you in just a second. But this week, did you know?
Oh,
here we go.
Here we go.
May 30th, of course, is the here we are in summer already. We're up to we're recording this on June 7th, as we speak. But of course, Memorial Day. Did you guys get a day off? Some people do, some people don't. Memorial Day, of course, it's the official beginning of summer, and of course, we honored the sacrifice made by our military personnel, who have given some of the ultimate sacrifice for the freedom of this country. So that was May 30th. And May 31st, I didn't know this. What is the clock that is on top of Elizabeth Tower? Anybody know?
Elizabeth Tower.
The clock, the famous clock that's at the top of Elizabeth Tower.
Are we talking about Big Ben?
Big Ben. You
All
got
right.
it. You got it. It's.
I guess I knew the name Big Ben. I didn't realize that was called Elizabeth Tower.
I didn't either.
Makes
Big
sense.
Ben,
Queen Elizabeth, right?
it rang for the first time on May 31st of 1859. That's how old that clock is. Yeah. I don't know if it's ever, some of you may want to look it up. I'm not sure if it's ever stopped or not in all those years.
When that rings, is that the Westminster Chimes, or is that what sound
Westminster
does that make?
Chimes, yeah. I think so. Yeah, Westminster Chimes.
To look that up.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I made a song out of that.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you copyright it? Okay.
I should, but every time I hear those chimes, I hear my song, which is kind of cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to think of you now whenever I hear that. All right, and speaking of that, on June 2nd, of course, 1953, Queen Elizabeth II was crowned monarch of the United Kingdom, and of course, a very lavish ceremony. They do everything very lavishly over there.
Yeah.
And anybody did you know that she was 27 years old when she took the throne, and now she's what, 90 something?
She's been on the throne for a long time.
Yeah, we're just getting celebrating her silver jubilee, I believe it was. Yeah, but let's get to the real important stuff. All right, 1938. There was some ladies who supported the troops on the front lines during World War I. Now, I don't know what they did, but probably, maybe food, maybe medical, supporting the troops on the front lines during World War I. And they were called the Donut Lassies. So maybe they served them donuts.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, it was so cool that somebody decided it was going to be National Donut Day. Now, how many of you guys got your free... He did. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Oh,
had to buy a beverage, but I got a free donut out of it. So
that's cool. Yeah. So that was in 1938. National Donut Day is.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, June 3rd. Huh. So let's finish up with the donuts. Though many countries have independently developed their own versions of donuts, the Dutch are widely credited with bringing this nice fried patry donut to America before the Revolutionary War. Yeah, and then they originally called them Ali Cooks, Olykkoeks. That's Dutch to me, but anyway, it means oily cakes. Yeah,
Makes sense. Deep fried in oil,
deep
right?
fried in oil. So there you go.
I don't know why
friends.
fried bread tastes so good, but man,
Oh,
funnel cake
it
and
does.
donuts. And
Oh man, what's your favorite kind of donut?
I don't know. I have so many. I don't think there's a donut I really don't like. I don't really care for the powdered ones.
Me too.
They just dry my mouth out, but pretty much anything else.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I'm like Boston cream, lemon filled. But I agree with you. The donut, the powdered, mainly, yeah, they make a mess all over your face, so
Yeah.
everybody can, no matter what you do, you've got a little bit left, especially when you got a mustache.
Now-
But they make a mess in the car.
So I know you're not originally from this area, but now that you live here,
Yeah.
what do you like, Maple Donuts or Dunkin' Donuts?
Oh, maple.
See, there are people on both sides of that camp,
Maple
like
Maple
diehard
Donuts.
Maple Donut fans versus.
Yeah, if you guys aren't from this area, from the York area, the York in Pennsylvania, Maple Donuts.
I think they're deep fried in lard. I mean, they are heavy
They're
donuts.
so good. They're so good. And they're bigger. I stopped at Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts one time, and the Maple brand are bigger than the Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts have gotten smaller, probably to
Probably
cut
the
costs.
same amount. Yeah.
But I do have to say that when you talk about Maple Donuts, I came to this area, and I drove by this donut place in a big sign with a maple leaf, and it said Maple Donuts. And I thought, oh, I love Maple Donuts. That's one of my other favorites. I love Maple Donuts. But I got in there, and there was all these other kinds. It's like,
They do have a maple frosted that
they
is
do.
really good.
They do.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So look that up online, guys. Maybe they ship them for a fee. Well, we probably would deliver. But anyway, no, not necessarily. But Maple Donuts, yeah, I'm a Maple Donuts. Anyway, all right, let's get to some trivia. I'm going to give you guys 5 trivia questions here. They're all regarding Christian music, and then after our first break, we'll give you the answers. Okay, that'll be a little bit ways into the podcast here. But which Christian band has had the most member changes? Yeah, and since they started, they've had total of 23 members. Of course, not all at one time.
Oh, wow.
Which Christian band has the most member changes? The second one, which amazingly popular secular band started off making Christian music? A secular band that started in Christian music. Yeah, maybe you guys will know that one. All right, number 3, which Christian band started the Blood/Water Mission? The Blood/Water Mission. This band started it. All right, number 4, which band originated from Rebecca St. James's brothers? Oh, okay. Her brothers started. Rebecca St. James's brothers. And finally, Switchfoot's name, the name Switchfoot, is a term used in what water sport? Switchfoot. All right, we'll give you those answers after the first break. But next,
What are we going with? Live shows?
live shows.
Yeah, so we have this article here. It's called "How to Make the Most Out of Your Live Shows." I'm kind of interested. How many of you guys out
Yeah.
there as artists are back to doing live shows, live performances, versus doing stuff digitally online, whether it's live streaming or just pre-produced videos?
Yeah, did the pandemic change the way you did things? Have
Yeah.
you gone back to live? Are you still doing both?
Yeah, I know a lot of artists that are even though we're out of lockdown technically, some venues have reopened. I still know a lot of artists that haven't really gotten back into the live
No, that's true.
venues or live shows because they've just found it's easier and I don't know, maybe like more cost effective to
Yeah.
just perform live streams or do digital performances. I don't know what you guys are up to in terms of that. Have you gotten back into live shows? So this article originally came from the Disc Makers blog, or at least it was posted on there. And so they're talking about how to make the most out of your live shows, whether you're just getting back into them or you're brand new to them. Here's a couple low-cost techniques, which are, they say, within reach of every musician. and it's kind of interesting the way they start out. They say if you don't put any effort into creating compelling live music shows, people may see you once, perhaps twice, but they usually aren't going to come back. I think that's pretty true. One of the best ways to help build buzz is to pack the venue wall to wall, they say, and to sell it out. How are you going to do that? They're going to tell you.
How do you do that?
Plus, the perception will drive future ticket sales, both for your fans and also for promoters. If they can see that you sold out a show, that's going to create a buzz, both for your audience and for other potential venues. It also gives you a reason, they say, to hit the press and the media and to generate additional publicity about your band or your solo performance, whatever it might be. But how do you sell out your shows? Here you go. Here's some of the tips they want to give you. The first thing is to design and perform a killer live show, as they say. The surest way to pack a room is to create something that's a fantastic live show that packs an emotional punch for the audience. If you guys haven't thought about it yet, especially if you're new to live performances, the difference between someone seeing you live and just watching you online is that connection that you have with the audience. If there's nothing different about what you do live than what people can see as far as like you performing on a music video or just, a live stream, whether it's, performing, your songs live or an individual song, they have no reason to come out to make the trek or to pay the ticket cost if there is one. There has to be something special from your live show to draw them out, to make them to want to come see you live. And that's what they're hitting on here. I think this is a really interesting point that there's two authors to this article. See if I can say the guy's name. Randy Churchcow, I'm probably butchering that, and Jason Feehan. But they bring up this really good point. They say, even though musicians can spend months and months making an album, they often spend only days or maybe weeks practicing for a live show. Yet this is where you make most of the income from, versus just selling CDs or whatever. So think about that, the imbalance of how much time you spend writing and recording your songs versus what you do to prepare for a live performance. They also mention a link that they have to another article called Work to Create a Killer Live Show, and that's on the Discmakers blog. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, I'll try to put the link to that article where they explain ways to create a live show that will make that connection. They say if you don't put the time and effort, your fans usually won't come back. And here's the thing, even if they like your music, they're likely just to stream it instead. There has to be a draw to bring them out, something special that they're going to get only from that live performance to make it, again, worth their while and to generate that buzz and that interest to come out to see you live. So design your show as a performance that creates an emotional connection between you and your audience, something that the fans crave and are drawn to. The next thing they say is to don't overplay your market. Don't oversaturate your market with live performances. You might be excited about getting out there, but you don't want to overdo it because that can also kill your live shows. They say make each performance special by limiting the number of shows you play in any geographic region. You can also do this by spreading out your live music shows and taking breaks in between and using it to stagger the other content that you're creating. So for example, they say play a live show and then schedule a few releases like an EP or a single and then play another live show. So this gives your fans a constant stream of things to look forward to rather than just flooding the market with a bunch of live shows and then doing nothing for the rest of the year.
I was going to interject. When you're doing a live show, if you can get any video of it, get some reasonably good quality video of it, release that as you're promoting the next live show.
Yeah.
And you use clips from your previous one to
create a buzz.
Yeah.
All right. Another way, they say the easiest way to sell out your show, this is kind of common sense, but maybe you wouldn't think of it, play venues smaller than your potential draw. So rather than booking the biggest venue you can get and filling it with, as many, all of your fans, and it looks like it's a ghost town because the venue's too big, actually book yourself in a venue that's smaller than the amount of people that you would normally get. That way, when you bring in your normal draw and hopefully a few guests, the place is packed out and basically sold out. Then you're able to report that you've sold out your show. It's a little bit of trickery, so playing with
living
illusions.
rooms don't count on that, okay?
Well, yeah, you have living room concerts, but
I guess you could.
Yeah. But they're saying, take photos from the stage of the packed out house.
Yeah.
Not only will this draw buzz for potential fans or fans who haven't made it out to your live shows yet. When you post these pictures on social media, it's going to create a buzz around the fact that you have such a draw in terms of audience, but it also helps with promotion when you have other promoters and venue owners looking at you as potential draws for their places. Because sometimes venue owners will need you to guarantee a certain amount of people for you to get in there. And so if you can show that you've packed out a house before, whatever that venue might be, that will increase your chances of doing that again with another venue. Another way to do it is to promote and to pre-sell your tickets or for your, enrollment for your shows. They're saying don't skip the promotion. You do this by updating your show calendar on your website or wherever you host that, announcing it to local radio programs or stations, including college radio. You might even be able to get interviewed on local radio stations, particularly college radio stations. Update all of your social networks. Hit up your mailing list. If you don't have that, create a mailing list for your fans to sign up for so that you can let them know when you're playing live. Reach out to the press and the media any way that you can, or even use your street team. We talked about that before, getting your super fans to actually hit the pavement for you and to go out and promote you. It's a great way to spread the word and to delegate some of the work so that you don't have to do it all for you. Selling tickets in advance is a great way to ensure attendance, because if people pay money, they're more than likely to show up than to not go. If you just invite people and they buy at the door, something will come up. They'll be like, oh, I have something else to do, or I don't want to travel that far. But if they paid for the ticket, it's paid in advance, they're already invested, so they're more than likely to come out and maybe bring a friend or two as well. That's a great way to get commitment for your fans to show up. Let's see what's next. And then they say it's also a great way. Your live shows is a great way to make more money with your music. If you guys don't know, a lot of times, even before the digital streaming age, most of the major label artists made their money at their concerts selling merch. And that's what they're talking about here. You should maximize the amount of money you make at your merch table. Maybe you haven't ventured into that yet in terms of selling CDs or download cards or the USB drives or T-shirts or whatever you have. But that's really where you're going to make your money. You don't make much money on downloads.
Right.
If you're in streaming already, you get a fraction of the penny for every stream that you get, whatever it is, if it's Spotify or something else. But if you have physical property, and live shows is the best place to get that out to your fans where they can purchase it, that's a great place to make a little bit more money on the music that you're making. Create merch first of all, and then have that available for your fans at your live shows. So there's a couple tips that they have for maximizing your live shows. So again, really interested to know if you guys are back out there doing this yet, and if you are, what kind of success have you had with packing those houses out, getting people to come out for live shows, or are people just tuning in on live streams instead? I think that's one of the things, like you were saying about record the live
right.
thing, but show it after the fact.
Right. Yeah, definitely show it.
So if you live stream your show at a venue, and maybe you don't have control over that, the venue itself might live stream it. There is always the potential there where somebody might say, "Oh, well, it's live streamed. I don't need to drive out to the venue or whatever." And so there's always that option to skip going out to a live show. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like the landscape of live shows has changed drastically because of that. I don't think there's any easy answer for that. I kind of hope that live music doesn't ever die.
Me too.
But
I think
yeah.
that's true. And so I think some venues, including churches, let's just touch on that for a second.
Yeah.
Boy, they just did not want, especially the small to the medium church, which is, as some of you know very well, they are the ones that book the artists mostly.
Right.
The larger churches typically don't have artists come in unless it's a big name. But the churches during the pandemic, they were just closing down. So if you like to sing in the small to medium sized churches, you probably didn't have any opportunities. So I wonder how that has changed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Now the band I'm in, we just played a show out in Doylestown on Saturday. First time we played a venue in months.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Drove over 2 hours to get out there. It's close to the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border. And we had a great turnout. I mean, I was really surprised. It was in a kind of coffee house in the bottom of a church, but it was full. I didn't count the people, but most of the seats were full. Now, they did live stream that.
They did?
They do both. The cool thing about that was the venue host, he actually has his own server. So he was talking about he was explaining the fact that if you host a live stream on Facebook, they kind of control it and everything. Whereas he can post this and he owns the rights to it. So he can show it live while it's happening, and he can rebroadcast it whenever he wants, and he can save it on his website so that people can go back and access it whenever they want to. So he's got an archive of all the previous live streams.
That is cool.
It's really great. And they had a really nice setup there, 3 different cameras with a video switcher. All the audio was run through with, another mixing board specifically for the live stream. And they checked both sound mixes in the house and the live stream before we even hit play or record. And so it was great that they had that option to do that, especially for our fan base who are based here in Lancaster and York, which is South Central PA, who probably weren't able to make it all the way out there.
Go out there, yeah, cool. So, what do you guys think? We'd like to hear from you on whether you're a band doing secular venues, or maybe you're what we call a hybrid. You're doing secular and Christian music. Maybe you do smaller ones. Maybe you just focus on the churches. How has that changed? What do you do to kind of promote yourself? And some of these ideas that you were talking about, Nate, some of them work well for booking church programs and concerts, and some of them maybe when you're doing a church, it's a little differently, like tickets, for example. Typically, you wouldn't sell that, but you wouldn't sell tickets to a smaller or medium-sized church, probably. But how do you go about getting the interest there? How do you promote yourself and your we won't say show for that. We'll say your ministry, your gig. That encompasses all. Anyway, let's maybe we'll touch more on that, and we'd like to hear from you on that. And maybe you've got some information on how you do it that we could share with others. Maybe you've got some tips on booking yourself, making sure that you got people there. How do you let people know that you're going to be at a certain church, et cetera, et cetera. So info@notespiremusic.com is the email. We are going to give you the trivia answers coming up and lots more on this edition of the Artist, I got to get it right, the Impact.
There you go.
Yes. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Artist Impact Podcast with your hosts, Nate Miller and Paul Gibbs.
This podcast and a portion of the programming on WNSMDB Notespire Radio are sponsored in part by MTS Management Group, specializing in full-service artist management, publicity and promotions, and social media campaigns. MTS Management is on the cutting edge of today's new music business. To learn more, visit mtsmanagementgroup.com. MTS, where indie artists go for major coverage.
And now, back to the Artist Impact Podcast with your hosts, Paul Gibbs and Nate Miller.
And we're back.
So what are you drinking this week, Paul?
I'm still drinking.
Is it Grape Kickstart?
Not yet. Guys, help me out.
If you guys listened to our last podcast, we were talking about we cannot find grape anywhere. I actually went to a Dollar General that I hadn't checked out before. I heard that Dollar Generals sometimes have the flavor, but I was still not able to find grape.
No, we checked a couple of places too, and the Dollar Generals are usually they have it for $1.35, which is a reasonable price. Sometimes you'll get it in Walmart used to get it in Walmart for like $4 for $5. I think it was $1.25. But even Walmart, no grape.
But while I was there, I found this limited time flavor, berries and cream RC Cola.
Wow.
Look at that. When I was telling Paul before we recorded tonight, growing up, I loved RC Cola. I don't know why. I just liked it better than Pepsi and Coke. And I saw this berries and cream RC Cola, and I figured I got to try this, especially since it's a LTO.
Yeah. Limited time only. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, cool. My favorite, I think, growing up was at Barden's Mobile getting either a grape knee-high or an orange crush.
Oh, Orange Crush. I
So
remember that.
you put the quarter in, pull the bottle out. Loved it. Loved it. Oh, those days are gone. Anyway, welcome back. Did you guys get any of those trivia questions? I got the answers for you. Yeah. Which Christian band has had the most member changes over the years since they started? Total of 23 members total. That would be Petra.
Wow, we had them last time
Yes,
with what did they have the most
what did they have?
albums? 23 albums.
I think so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think if I
got
remember
it.
correctly.
I got it here somewhere. Okay.
So I was gonna guess Petra, but I
Were
didn't
you?
think we
Okay.
were gonna have them twice in a row.
They've been around 23 years. Wow. Which Christian band has had the I'm sorry. Yes, the most albums was 23. Yeah,
Yeah.
One album per member. You are correct. Yes, that's right there.
Wow.
All right. Which amazing but popular secular band started off making Christian music?
I know I'm gonna know this when I hear it, but I can't think.
Yeah, I don't know when they've been around a while too. U2.
I had heard that they were a
U2.
Christian band at one
Yeah,
point.
I
Wow.
heard that somewhere too. And of course, it was Jars of Clay that started the Blood Water mission.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that entailed. I was kind
Yeah.
of familiar with that. The band that originated with Rebecca St. James's
Yeah,
brothers.
who are her brothers?
Yeah. Well, one was named King, and one was named Country.
Oh, for King and Country.
Yeah. No, that wasn't their names. But anyway, yeah, for King and Country.
I didn't know they were her brothers.
They were her brothers. Or
Interesting.
I think they still are.
Yeah, I guess they still would be. Semantics.
And of course, surfing is the term that is used. It's a name of Switchfoot.
It's also a
It's
skateboarding term.
Also skateboarding.
Yeah.
And surfing. Switchfoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hope you guys got those. We'll have 4 or 5 more for you next time. We got a bunch of them. So let's see. All right. You're going to talk about the iPad.
The iPod. Yeah.
I almost said iPad.
Well, we'll talk about that too. That's
Okay.
highlighted in this article. How many of you guys out there either had an iPod or still do? Some of our listeners, if you're younger, you might not even remember the iPod. But this article is a few weeks old, I should say now. It's from the music industry blog, posted on May 11th. So almost a month old now, but really interesting. This caught my eye because I never had the original iPod with like the little wheel that you would turn, or the iPod Nano. We had the
I remember
iPod.
those.
Yeah, we had the iPod Touch, which they will quote unquote touch on in this article.
Ooh.
But this was a really interesting kind of tribute to the iPod. So it says, Apple just announced that it is finally ending production of the iPod at 21 years of age.
Wow.
I didn't realize it was 21 years ago when this thing came out. It just says that it simply couldn't. It didn't really have a place anymore in the music stream or digital stream now that that's dominated by streaming services and the vinyl resurgence. The iPod just kind of fell out of favor, except for with a ever diminishing group of super fans who love the iPod, right?
Yeah.
But this is really cool. It kind of talks about how it launched so many things that we take for granted today. It says it was the change catalyst that transformed Apple into the mega corporation that it is today. I don't know if you guys remember that when the iPod came out, it was so revolutionary. Like we take it for granted now. It just seems so simple, and like everything that Apple produces now, it seems to make sense. But if you go back far enough, Apple was not. There was no iPhone. There were no iTunes. Like none of that yet. It says it was the trailblazer that created the environment in which today's digital entertainment would and could exist. So all because of this little music player, little MP3 player basically. So the iPod shuffled. I love how they use that shuffled, because the iPod shuffled along at a steady pace until the launch of the iTunes Music Store, at which point it suddenly had a purpose that it previously lacked, and sales took off. They lifted off. Apple has never looked back. So there was this little mini iPod music player, but it was able to do what it was created to do. But once the iTunes Store came online, suddenly, everybody was able to access iTunes with this little unit, and that's what really created this catalyst.
You think maybe they knew what they were doing at that point?
I don't know if it was if they envisioned that, or if it just was like this synergy that as the iPod evolved from a scroll wheel, that's the one I did not have, to the touch screen, it became the launch pad for something even bigger for Apple, the iPhone. The first gen iPhone was a direct evolution of the iPod Touch. at a time when smartphones were all keys. So again, if you guys are younger, you probably don't remember the original smartphones. Like the BlackBerry had a little keyboard that you would type on, like a physical keyboard. They didn't have the touch screens that we all know now of for like iPhones and Androids. That hadn't been created yet. So the original iPhone, first gen, was based off of the iPod.
How many of you still got one? Anybody? I bet the first one made is worth millions.
Oh, probably. Wow. And then they go on. They talk about how all these things that came successively after this revolution. So Pandora was an early beneficiary of Apple's app strategy being natively installed on U.S. iPhones. So again, iPhones came from the iPod. The result was another liftoff, with Pandora soon becoming the most widely used streaming app on the planet, even though it was only available in the U.S. originally. Just as with the iTunes iPod combination, Apple understood the cruciality of an integrated content device experience, and its app store became the launchpad for today's digital entertainment economy. Yeah. So all those apps that you guys love to download for your iPhones, that wouldn't have developed had it not been for this iPod and iTunes combination. Once they realized that Apple realized that they could do this, it just like opened the door for all these new combinations of technologies. Of course, Google soon followed with its own take on the App Store. Was that the Google Play Store?
Google Play Store or Google, yeah.
Yeah, and it says now you will struggle to find a games, music, video, news, podcast, or a book provider that does not use the Apple App Store, nor indeed a consumer that does not use apps to consumer content. We all use them no matter what operating device you're on. Especially if you're on an iPhone, you're on that Apple App Store. And again, all of these are outgrowths of that iPod technology. So cool. Yeah. Apple's subsequent launch of the iPad and Apple TV further accelerated the adoption of digital content, giving audiences and content companies more choice about where they could benefit from the app economy. So Apple Music, Apple TV, Apple Books, podcasts, news, arcade, and more followed, helping cement Apple not just as a catalyst for the digital entertainment economy, but also as a major content player in its own right. None of this article says, would have happened without the humble little iPod. Wow. Without it, the devices you use and the entertainment you consume would look very, very different. And he ends it with, farewell, iPod. So after 21 years, they finally retire this little device that really spawned a digital entertainment revolution. Wow, yeah. So cool.
That is cool. Yeah. That is cool. And there was all kinds of little knockoffs. I've got one up in the bedroom. Yeah. Little knockoff. And
MP3 players. Yeah.
Little MP3 player. Yeah. I still got one of those. I never got an iPod, but I had different. Yeah, and probably you guys. And then what about the Sony Walkman, the original Walkman?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if I had a Sony, but I had some sort of Walkman. It's the cassette tape player Walkman.
Oh, the cassette player, and there was a CD, and then the CD.
Then later
right?
the CD came. Yeah.
And then
But yeah, I had one of the Walkmans. I don't think it was a Sony, one of the knockoff brands, but for cassette tape.
Hang on to that stuff, guys. Hang on to it.
Well, who knows what happened to it now? But probably eats tapes.
Eats tapes. Right. Yeah. I love that thing on Facebook. It says, young people have no idea, and it says, they think they're the technology or something with the iPad or something, whatever the tech goes wrong, and then there's a picture of a cassette tape with the tape all coming out, and young people just have no idea.
The struggle was real.
The struggle was real. Yeah,
for sure.
Let's talk about session players. The session players are the unsung heroes, of the recording music industry sometimes. For example, Tommy Tedesco. How many of you heard of Tommy Tedesco? Probably no. I hadn't either. No. So, well, I'll get to him in just a second. But
this is what you mentioned last time.
You talked
at the
about
very
this
end of
last
the
time.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting, and there might be something even useful here. All right. It was the year 2000. In November of 2000, it was reported that Andy White, now who's heard of Andy White? At least not this guy, who played drums on the Beatles song in the studio. He played drums on a Beatles track of Love Me Do, which was featured on the new Beatles Greatest Hits album. he did not even earn enough from playing that song to buy his own copy of the song.
You're kidding.
Yeah, he got no more than his original session fee, which in pounds was £7.
Huh.
What a bummer. All right. So the story is, or at least it was, if in the 60s, if you were asked to play on a recording session, you were given the option, of given the option of being paid a fee for your day's work, walk away, and that's it. Or you could take a small percentage of future sales.
It's kind of like songwriting, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're a struggling musician, and back in those days, and many were, a bit of cash on the day of recording would be very tempting. I mean, you got to pay the rent and put food in your stomach, et cetera, et cetera. So you probably would take the cash, figuring the song will never be a hit anyway. Well, uh-oh. In that case, Andy White probably should have taken the percentage.
Wow, but how do you know?
Yeah, but how do you know?
Huh.
But, so a lot of session players went that route, and they didn't make an awful lot of money. But for others, like Jimmy Page, yeah, we have heard of him, right?
Sure.
John Paul Jones. I didn't know he was in Led Zeppelin with Jimmy Page, but both of these guys, Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, were both in Led Zeppelin. But before Led Zeppelin was even heard of, they were very in-demand session players. So much so that by the time Jimmy Page formed Led Zeppelin, he had enough cash in the bank to pay for the studio time to record the band's first album.
Wow.
Yeah. Another musician who did really well was American drummer and session musician Hal Blaine. He worked with what was called back then the Wrecking Crew in California, and he played on numerous hits by Elvis, John Denver, the Ronettes, Simon and Garfunkel, Carpenters, Beach Boys, Nancy Sinatra,
Wow.
Fifth Dimension. He played on over 35 number one hits in the United States.
That's
35
crazy.
number one. Yeah. Okay, now let's get to Tommy Tedesco. I hadn't heard of him either, but he was an American session guitarist, and he was described, get this, by Guitar Player magazine. He was described as the most recorded guitar player in history.
That's what you had talked about in our
Wow.
last episode.
The most recorded guitarist in history. He recorded with, among them, the Beach Boys, Everly Brothers, Supremes, Monkees, Association, Barbra Streisand, Elvis, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Zappa, Sam Cooke, Cher, and Nancy and Frank Sinatra. And I'm sure that's just a partial list
Sure, yeah.
of all that the songs that he played on. And who's ever heard of him? Two more. Glenn Campbell. Now, there's a guy we've heard of, right? And in addition to having great hits of his own, by the time I get to Phoenix, Wichita Lineman, Rhinestone Cowboy, and many more, before all of that, he worked with Bobby Darin, Ricky Nelson, the Monkees, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, once again, the Velvet Underground, Frankie Lane, Association, Jan and Dean. Yeah, I didn't know about that. The Mamas and the Papas. His guitar player can also be heard on Strangers in the Night by Frank Sinatra. Righteous Brother, You've Lost That Loving Feeling. And one of my favorites by the Monkees, I'm a Believer. Next time you guys hear that, I'm a Believer. And I saw her face, da, 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 now I'm a believer. Glenn Campbell's playing on that. Wow. Yeah, very cool. Now here's a guy, but this guy, let's go back the other way. Danny Cedrone, Cedrone. Danny Cedrone, American guitarist. Yeah, he's like a one-hit wonder. He's not even a one-hit wonder. He's a one-solo wonder, but nobody even knows who he is.
Huh.
He was the guy that played the lead solo on Bill Haley and the Comets' Rock Around the Clock.
Oh, wow.
He played that guitar solo. You would have thought maybe Bill Haley played it. No,
Yeah.
Danny Cedrone played it. He played the lead guitar break on Rock Around the Clock, and in doing so, he secured himself a place in music history, but it's a great little guitar solo, but he died on June 17th in 1954, 10 days after recording the song.
Oh, wow.
He fell down a staircase and broke his neck.
What?
And yeah, he was paid $21 to play that solo.
Oh, my.
Wow. Yeah. So anyway, guys, if you get asked to play on, or sing backup or do something in the studio for another artist or group, you might want to consider taking a percentage of future sales. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's as important today as it was back then, but wow.
I can't even
Interesting
imagine the
stuff.
talent you have to be a session player. I mean, think
Oh.
about the variety of music you have to be competent, to handle. Like,
to handle, right?
especially if you're a guitarist,
Yeah.
whether you're rhythm or electric, you have to know.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have chops for like every different style, basically.
Yeah, you can't just
'Cause-
have one style. They're going to want.
Yeah, I mean, because you have no idea what you're coming into the studio to record,
Exactly.
unless they're handpicking you based on your style.
Well,
But
that's
you'd
true.
be very limited.
Yeah.
But some of these guys who play on all these different recordings, I mean, they're playing very different,
Yep.
vastly different types of music
They sure are.
very well. I mean, good enough to be on these permanent recordings that are
Yep.
going out.
And I think
just
maybe
can't.
back then it was more of a I hate to say cliquish, but I mean,
Yeah.
it was a small group, relatively small group of really good musicians, maybe
Mm-hmm.
as LA or wherever. I'll just throw this one in here. This gal, she had a career spanning over 50 years. She was the bass guitarist, a bassist on many Phil Spector and Brian Wilson productions in the 60s and 70s. She's credited with playing bass tracks on several Simon and Garfunkel hits, film scores by Quincy Jones and Lalo Schifrin. She was on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album. She performed bass on many American TV themes, including The
Wow.
Streets of San Francisco, Mission Impossible, which is in 5/4 time,
Yeah.
MASH, and the Kojak theme. She's played an estimated 10,000 recordings in her 50-year career. And of course, we're talking about Carol Kaye. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who would have heard of, Carol Kaye? Not Carol King, but Carol
Yeah,
Kaye.
yeah.
Wow.
Man, it's
yeah.
just-
So, some trivia there for you, some information that might, at the very least, you can talk about over whatever. All right. Last time we talked a lot about rehearsing and rehearsing with your band.
Band rehearsal
We talked
versus
about
practice. And
what's the difference?
Yeah.
Practice is what you do by yourself. Okay, right. Remember that, right? And with your band or practicing by yourself, we talked a lot about that. We're going to continue that a little bit. But first, I forgot to mention, I'm going to mention it right now, that if you would like to be a sponsor of this podcast, or and the Just Got Music Hour and the Artist Impact and Insight. There we go.
Yeah.
I still get those mixed up. It's been years. We'd love to have you on board because we would like to help you with, helping to get your name out there, your band, yourself as a ministry, your musician. Go to the website, notespiremusic.com, and you can find out more on that. We're also going to put your name on our internet station, Notespire Radio. So find out more about that. We'll mention more about that in a little bit, but we forgot to mention that after the last break. So I looked on a paper and it said sponsor. So, okay, do it while you're thinking of it. All right. Speaking of doing it while you're thinking about it. All right. We talked quickly last time about finding a rehearsal space, a consistent rehearsal space, a consistent schedule. We've talked a lot about consistency, and that applies to this to rehearsing as well. Pre-rehearsing, also known as practicing, the time to learn your solo, guys. Your lead solo is at home, not at the practice session with the band, rehearsal session. Be on time, please. Yeah, don't make everybody else wait, especially if you've got a whole bunch of stuff to set up. Drummers, keyboard players, okay. A pet peeve for me: don't be playing around, noodling, learning your stuff, whatever. Testing all your pedals. I know, guys, guitar players, you've got 1,500 pedals on your pedal board. During rehearsal is not the time to try to figure out what setting to use, and we talked about rehearsing with a click. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, and we'll just leave that there. But next, record your rehearsals. We used to do this way back. We'd record them on a cassette tape.
Yes, same here.
Yeah, could record your rehearsal on a cassette, and then take it home and listen to it over and over, and maybe you can come back to the next rehearsal and make things a little bit better, whatever. Bring your supplies. Don't forget your picks and your drumsticks and all of that stuff. All the stuff. guys, remember you've got to connect all 1,500 of those pedals. So you're going to need a little
All those
quarter-inch
patch cables,
patch cables. Bring those. And whatever else you need, have those extra strings. Anything else you can think of there?
Oh, yeah, I have a gig bag that I
Yeah.
carry everything
Everything
in. I
in
mean,
there.
it's everything from
Yeah.
string winders to an extra, set
Yeah.
of strings,
Yep.
nail clippers in case I get a nick on my nail. I mean, everything that I
Yeah.
think that I could potentially use
Yes,
is in
exactly.
that bag.
Do you carry duct tape in your gig bag?
I used to carry clothespins in case I was playing outside and the wind was blowing my music.
Okay, clothespins are a good one. Yeah.
But I've been using like a digital music stand, so that's kind of a thing of the past for me.
Okay.
Duct tape I haven't had, but that could come in handy. Gaff tape maybe.
Gaff tape works because when you rip it off the guy's mouth that's talking too much, it comes off easier. Yeah.
What do they say? Silence is golden,
Silence is
but
golden.
duct tape is silver.
I had not heard that. That's where if I had a button to push over here, that would canned laughter. I'd push it right now. Duct tape is also good for that guitar player, the lead guitar player that won't shut up. Just slap some on his strings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Have a guest policy. I mean, think about it. Maybe, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands,
See?
wives.
If the Beatles would have had that, Yoko Ono wouldn't have wedged her way in there.
sheesh, Yeah. Yeah. So, have I know this is a real sensitive issue, especially if everybody's practicing in your house and your kids are running around and stuff. It's a sensitive topic, but please just at least think about this, okay? If it's needed, you don't want this to be something that breaks up the band, okay? So address it early, gently, a guest policy, and also this one says have a party policy. I think that means party as often as you can, right?
I don't know what they.
I don't know what they
Could take
mean
it a couple of different directions.
Yeah, we
there.
could. I guess maybe that's not it. Okay, but anyway, have a party policy. Tell us what you think that should be. What is your party policy? Okay. I guess one good way to do it would be to if you're going to have maybe a rehearsal party. We did this one time outside at my house up in Hudson Falls years ago. We the praise band we had put together. We rehearsed outside. It was a nice Saturday afternoon. We invited everybody. We cranked it up. The neighbors all heard us playing praise and worship music. It was great.
That's cool.
So do that. Rent a place, whatever. Do it in your garage, whatever.
People probably appreciate that now, being post-COVID. Do it outside in the open air, right?
Exactly. So let's continue with this. I'm going to do about half of these, maybe. No, there's not too many here. So I think we can get these all in. And then I know you got one more thing we're going to share here. So let's continue with this. We're talking about rehearsal. And this comes from Michael Gallant, or Gallant, Gallant. He went to a rehearsal at the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. The Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. He went to one of their rehearsals, and this is some of the ideas that he came away with, and he put it down here for us to share with you. Work it. Number one, work it. They ran through. This is the orchestra he's talking about. They ran through different sections multiple times, over and over, and focusing on the most difficult ones. Okay, repetition. Consistency, that's what makes it work. Whether the piece is, whether you're putting together a song that's very easy, he calls it blissfully simple. Yeah, I know what that means. Or very supremely difficult. That's Diana Ross talking. Make the commitment to work it until you own it. Yeah, don't just, in other words, if you got a song, it's got a hard part in it, don't just say, oh, it's good enough. Let's go back and work on that chorus or that solo or whatever that really needs to be worked on a little more. And then going right along with that, divide and conquer. And this talks about breaking the music down into smaller chunks, sometimes just a few measures, a few phrases, just the chorus, just the guitar solo, whatever. Zoom in on the most challenging trouble spots and iron out the kinks before you move on to the next one. Spend the most time on the hardest moments. I guess that would, it kind of goes without saying. It's kind of obvious, but again, don't settle for just, oh, it's good enough. There are times when you want to you really need to move on. We don't want to. Let's not beat this to death. But don't settle for just half-baked section of a
Or
song.
don't waste your time playing a whole song. Like if you have a 3.5-minute song, and 3 minutes of it you already have down, you can play perfectly, but it's that 30-second guitar solo that's giving you the trouble.
Yep.
Don't play the other 3 minutes. Play that 30 seconds until you can get that perfect.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't waste your time.
And I'm going to go back to my pet peeve again, folks, and it probably won't be the last time. If that guitar player, I know he should have worked on it at home, or the keyboard players got that solo or whatever. I know they should have worked on it at home. But if there's a little extra work that needs to be done in rehearsal, the rest of you, please shut up.
Boy, this really bothers you, Paul.
It does. I have been there so many times. Oh, anyway. All right. If you need to talk among yourselves, go upstairs. Go somewhere else. Okay. Anyway.
That's that no party policy, right?
All right. I'm jokingly serious about that. All right. And then I know you've done this. Slow it down.
Oh, yeah.
Slow it down. Slow the song down.
Well, that's where playing to a click or a metronome is helpful. If you
Is
can't play it up to speed, drop it down a few
Drop
BPMs
it down a little bit.
and so you can manage it, and then slowly work your way up.
I don't think we ever did this in bands I was in, but it makes sense. And also, a lot of this stuff, guys, if you're recording in your own studio or any studio, a lot of this stuff applies to the recording environment as well.
Yeah.
Slow it down, and if you haven't done this as a band, try it. Try it. I know the drummer, the drummer it may not feel natural, but what if you took at 3/4 speed or half speed and just do it that way? Maybe not singing, okay? Maybe not the vocal, but maybe the vocal needs to sing along just to keep everybody in their place. But anyway,
Yeah.
so slow down. Take it half speed or even slower until you're comfortable playing it through and through, and then gradually increase the tempo until you're back to regular speed.
Right.
Keep it loose, guys. Keep it loose. Plenty of jokes and laughter. All right. He says that at the Lincoln Center, when the jazz was rehearsing, there was a lot of jokes and laughter on stage. Now, I'm sure it didn't get out of control.
Yeah, it wasn't distracting.
Right,
Yeah.
but it needs to happen. Give yourself a little grace, a little freedom to keep the lightheartedness going, keep the jokes going, keep the whatever. Don't make fun of that guitar player. That's if he. Okay, we'll just leave that there. All right. You could tell that the orchestra. He said, I could tell the orchestra was a real band with positive energy and respect. And it's a vibe that any band would do well to emulate. Next, stay focused. Stay focused, guys, okay? Whatever fun you're having during your rehearsal, when it's time to work on the music or work on a particular section, put all of your focus on the music, okay? No distracting, goofing off, all right? You can't mix the two, okay? It's got to be one or the other. Have some fun, laughter and stuff, but when it's time to focus. All right, the musicians, they knew when to relax and have fun, and they knew when to focus and get the music where it needs to be. So, guys, give yourself time to polish that music in your own rehearsal. Give the music and your bandmates the undivided attention that everything deserves, okay? Now, pace yourself. Take a break. Take a break. They had programmed breaks into their 3-hour rehearsal, and with good reason, because when you're working on this stuff, if you're focusing the way you should be, it's taxing.
It takes a lot out of you.
It takes a lot out, mentally and physically. Breaking up the rehearsal can keep you focused and fresh, and as long as you're scheduling your own rehearsals, make sure you're all in the room together long enough to get good work done, but give everybody plenty of opportunities to stop playing, stretch, use the restroom, grab a snack, whatever. All right? If you happen to find some great kickstart, please let us know. info@notespiremusic.com. Finally, give it your all. This goes along with what we were just saying. He says, even when the orchestra was playing a challenging section for the very first time and things were less than perfect, there was no shortage of energy or passion. So he says, one of the best ways to ensure your performances are full of power and life is to follow that example. Make sure your rehearsals are vibrant and electric as well, unless you're doing an acoustic session. And then make sure they're vibrant and acoustic. But there's some tips for rehearsals. And I think there's
some good stuff there.
good stuff there. And also you can apply that, all of that, I think, to a recording session as well. Keep it loose, stay focused, pace yourself, give it your all, et cetera, take breaks, all of that stuff that we try to kind of do here in the studio here, which is right where we're sitting, in fact.
Yeah, and speaking of taking breaks.
Yeah, taking a break, that's a good idea.
That sounds like a good idea.
All right. You know what? You guys chew on that for a little bit, think about that, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Artist Impact Podcast with your hosts, Nate Miller and Paul Gibbs. And now, back to the Artist Impact Podcast with your hosts, Paul Gibbs and Nate Miller.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. All right.
back, yeah.
Everybody doing all right? I hope. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. I always ask that on the Just Got Music Hour podcast as well. And we also, speaking of the Just Got Music Hour, that's comes out every Friday. That's a podcast that I have the honor and pleasure of hosting. And I'm saying that right now because we would love to have you as a sponsor of all three of our podcasts. And you can find out more about all of that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I just, I don't know, it came to my mind, so I have to say it. Our email, info@notespiremusic.com. The website, notespiremusic.com. Check that out. And, we'd love to have you do that. Yeah. All right,
let's move on to talking about demos.
Okay, cool. What
makes the perfect demo? Have you guys out there recorded a demo yet, or do you have any experience in doing that? This is a little article written by Jason Bloom. Again, we've shared a lot of his info on here. Originally posted in Music World. I got this from the BMI website, and he says that a lot of his workshops, that's one of the main questions he always gets is how good does a demo need to be? But it's kind of cool because he starts out by saying, like, you need to identify the purpose of your demo recording. So maybe you didn't think about this. When I hear demo, you might think it's just one size fits all. It's just at one point it was a cassette tape. Now it's a CD.
Right.
3 to 5 songs or 2 to 3 songs on it or whatever. Yep. But there's a lot of things to think about because there's more than one type of demo, which is kind of cool because he breaks this down. So he says, are you creating a demo in the hopes of finding a home with a recording artist? Is it used to seek representation by a music publisher? To present you as a recording artist to record labels, managers, or producers? Is it to promote yourself for live gigs or for something like sync licensing opportunities? So there's a lot of different options here, which, some of these I hadn't even thought about before until I read through this article. So let's dive into this a little bit. He gives a little bit of information about each of these types of demos. So this will maybe help you to sort of home in on what type of demo you need and give you some more food for thought before you go hit record and start making your demo. Okay, so he's going to start off with what he calls the perfect song demo. He says song demos are intended to showcase the song as opposed to the singer or the band. So this is something that you would be recording as a songwriter. Maybe you're not going to be the eventual artist who's going to sing it or produce it. You're pitching a song that you've written that may or may not be, you may or not be the end user. You record demos. So you want to record the demo in a way that the publisher can confidently present it with no apologies or disclaimers. So, for example, for a tender, slow song, you might only need a guitar or a keyboard and a vocal. You're not going to do a full production for that. Whereas maybe an up-tempo song, songs in the styles of such as like EDM, electronic dance music, R&B or R&B and pop, in which the backing tracks contribute a huge amount to the song's success, you're likely going to need to be fully produced on your recording with keyboards, guitars, bass, and drums, as well as background vocals and harmony parts. Remember, if this is a song demo that you're pitching a song for, you want the producer and the artist that's going to listen to this to get your vision for what this song is going to sound like before they're even going to be interested in taking that on as a project. He says, if you imagine any element as being a critical part of your song's success, you need to include it in your demo. So if it is going to be, like he said, one of these songs that is normally highly produced, you're probably not going to want to record a demo with just a guitar and a vocal. You have to make it sound like that finished product that the producer or the artist is looking for, or vice versa. If you're looking at like a ballad, a love song, don't do a full-blown thing with electronic drums and synth and all this stuff. Just record it the way the final product is going to sound like for the artist who's going to eventually record it. He goes on here to say about the vocals and instruments need to be in tune, makes sense, and up to the professional standard. Again, you're showcasing this song and you don't want anything to distract from it. In many genres, a keyboard or a guitar and a vocal should be sufficient to see if the publisher is interested in representing the song. Unless you are established as a superstar writer, he says, don't pitch versions to A&R executives, recording artists, or artist managers. Unless you already have an in with somebody, you don't want to go that way. So make sure that it's up to par, that it's the highest quality that you can give this person, the producer or whatever, before they hear it. And again, in order to highlight the song, you're trying to sell the song. In most cases, demo recordings are our only opportunity to give our input about the instrumentation and production. So again, what he's saying is, if you're a songwriter and you're trying to pitch this song, this is your chance to show the end user, the end performer, what the song should sound like in your mind. If you hear strings in there, they may or may not use them in the final production. You might not be the end producer or the end artist who performs this, but put it in there. Because by the time they hear this demo, if somebody decides to take this project on, you've in effect sold your song to this producer. They have full reign then to produce it however they want, to remix it, reimagine it. But a lot of times, he gives from personal experience in the article that he put elements in, like he heard certain guitar parts that he would have put in if he produced this song.
Yep.
And then he heard the final product that an artist recorded, and they ended up using, sometimes they ended up using his guitar licks note by note.
Wow, very
because he imagined it and put it in there, and then they ended up using it. So again, if you're pitching this as a song demo, this is your chance to put your ideas in that you want to hear in the song. He says, I make my quote-unquote suggestions by recording the musical and vocal arrangements as I imagine them. This is the author talking. My demo essentially says, this is the guitar lick I hear in the verses, or this is where I hear the background vocals coming in. This is the bass line and drum pattern I envisioned for the final recording, and more. So that's some cool ideas for songwriters.
Yeah, cool.
If you're thinking about recording your songs, hoping to pitch them to publishing houses or other artists to record them, think about these things before you create even a simple demo.
Yeah.
Make sure it's in the right style, that it's up to a professional level in terms of sound. Things are in tune. The style matches the end style of the song, whether it's something stripped down or fully produced. And this is a chance to put in your ideas that may or may not be used in the final product. So that's the song demo. He goes on now. He says, this is the perfect artist demo. So the artist demo is intended to demonstrate a singer or a band their potential as a recording artist. So this isn't just about the song itself. This is about the artist or the band. It is tasked with convincing managers, producers, and record label executives that you are worthy of a significant investment of their time and money. And an artist demo should sound as close as possible to the way you envision your final product. So again, he says here, it's critical that the vocals be as strong as possible. So for many artist demos, vocals are comped, which if you don't understand that means they compile the best parts of multiple takes. And depending on the genre, they are also likely to be tuned with the aid of computer software, so auto-tune or some kind of pitch correction. So if you're trying to highlight yourself as an artist, whether you're a solo artist or a band, and you want to get picked up, again, like you said, whether it's for a manager, a producer, or a record label, you want this thing to sound and represent you as best as possible. If you can't get your vocal in one take, do as many multiple takes as you need to get each part, and comp them all together to get the best combination of your takes. Use pitch correction if you have to. You might not do that in your final recording in the main studio, but as a demo, he's saying that this is really important if you're going to if this is going to showcase you as an artist hoping to get picked up by a label or a recording studio. Okay, how about demos to secure gigs? This one's an interesting one. I didn't think about this one. He says this is likely to be a booking agent is likely to be more interested in how you sound and interact in front of an audience as opposed to like a highly polished or produced recording. So an audio or video recording of a live performance or a compilation of various live performances is a good way to go. And he says this is likely the only scenario for which you would submit a live recording. So different from a song demo or an artist demo, if you're using this demo to secure gigs, show the venue or the booking agent that you're able to perform in front of a crowd, that you're engaging, that you're a sure bet for them to book, especially if they require you to draw a certain amount of people. Give them an example of your live performance. And so submit a live recording and then make sure that it's like the best example of what you're able to do with a crowd. So pretty cool.
That would really apply too if you're trying to. This is really great for, as we talked earlier about artists and groups that are trying to get church. Church programs. Boy, if you've got a nice video of short, long, maybe both, that you can send to a church or you can put on your website and say to that church, okay, here's a program I did at such and such a church. You can go to my website and look at it.
I was thinking, as you were saying that, I was thinking about like bands that come in to play for youth groups. They will often bring in outside groups to play for youth events and things like that. It's one thing to send, a church a recording of your songs, but like they're not going to know, is this going to connect with my youth? But if you can show them a video of you performing at another church's youth retreat or whatever it is, and show that the kids are actually engaged in what you're doing, that shows the church that you're able to not perform, but to deliver something that is going to engage their kids, hold their attention, and actually communicate to them the ministry and the message behind your music. And that's going to help you to get your foot into the church or the event much better. Moving on, he says demo for sync licensing. So are you guys interested in getting your music on TV commercials, TV shows, movies? And that's what he's talking about here. A lot of the songs that you hear on the background on TV shows and movies were recorded functionally as songwriters and artist demos. So a lot of times you hear stuff, it could be instrumental, it could have vocals in it. I'm thinking about things like, I don't know, like NCIS or CSI. There's always music playing in the background.
Always music.
Sometimes it's stuff that's on the radio, and sometimes it's not. Like
sometimes that a lot of that stuff is just recorded on a little computer and a little keyboard in somebody's bedroom. Believe it or not.
And you may not even notice. And if you're a musician, you probably do. But somebody somewhere recorded that song, and somehow I got on that show. I don't know why I picked those two shows. They just popped into my head first. But you always hear like backing tracks and something.
If you watch Hallmark movies, I'll bet it's the same person or people that does
probably one guy on the keyboard.
All of that music. But boy, it fills a need, and I'm sure whoever's making a very good living doing that.
Yeah. So he talks about this is a very specific type of demo, but he goes on to say, to be suitable for television and film, the instrumental and vocal performances on these recordings, as well as the overall sonic quality, needs to be on par with recordings heard on the radio. Again, it's not going to be played as is on a TV show or on a movie if the recording is subpar. In fact, he says this is sometimes referred to as broadcast quality, because in most instances, recordings placed in TV shows and films are not re-recorded. So it's not that you're submitting a demo and saying, "Hey, this is a song I think would be great for this TV show," and then somebody in the studio, the TV studio says, "Hey, this would be great. Let's redo this and make it, the sound quality we need for the show." They want it to be already ready to be just placed in the movie or the TV show. So make sure you have the best quality possible, because they're probably, if they take it on, they're going to play it as is. And he says these are used as is. You need to have the right, and this is important, you need to have the right to use the performances embodied in the recordings for sync placement. Make sure you are the sole owner, or you have rights to whatever you're submitting to them for them to use it. If it's co-written with somebody else, you need to have that person signed on. If you don't own all the rights for distribution, if this isn't your material, you can't get this played without a lot of legal proceedings. So make sure that you are the end user, or not the end user, the end right user, the original owner of this performance and recording before you submit it. Otherwise, it's just going to get nixed. And then he goes on to talk a little bit about budgets here. So obviously, to record a demo, it's not free unless you're doing it yourself. He says the budget to record a demo runs the gamut from $0 to thousands of dollars. So if you have the equipment to do it yourself, obviously it's not going to cost you anything. But if you do go into the studio, it could vary from a couple $100s to several $1,000s, depending on the amount of production that you're doing and instrumentation. So just think about that in terms of the complexity of your demo and what you need to produce it. You're going to need a budget to do that. Yeah. He says some songwriters with home studios hire one or more musicians or vocalists to perform on their recordings. We just talked about session players.
Yes, we did.
So that would be a place where you would use a session player or a session vocalist to come in and maybe you're a good instrumentalist, but you can't put the vocal on, and you need a vocal on this because it's a song demo or an artist demo or something like that. Bring somebody in who can do it so that you can make sure it's the top quality that you need. So here's his hot tips and summary for your demos. Lead with your strongest song. He says whether sending songs digitally or playing them in person for an industry pro, if you are sending individual links, limit them to your three best songs, he says. So again, you want to lead with your best foot forward so that they can hear that first, rather than having to they're not going to have time to weed through a bunch of things to find your best material. The lead vocal is probably the single most important element of your demo. They need to be in tune and in time. That should go without saying, but he says it anyway. And he also says avoid over-stylized performances and vocals that sound like impersonations. I think that's really important, especially if you're doing this as an artist demo. You don't want to just sound like you're trying to mimic or parody somebody else. Make sure it sounds like you, and it's not over-stylized. Keep your intro short. This is interesting. We talk about this when we're recording in the studio.
Yep.
He says not more than 8 musical bars at the beginning. You might have a 4-bar intro, maybe he says 8 musical bars. Yep. Unless he says this is an artist demo and a longer introduction is an integral part of the song that you're doing. So there's exceptions, but usually if that record exec has to wait through 12 bars, they're just going to stop and go. They're not even going to. Probably won't even fast forward to get to the good part of the song.
Can you imagine Can you imagine the Eagles sending Hotel California as their very first song? You got it. I mean, it worked for them because of who they were and when they did it. But as their first song with that huge intro,
Yeah. So, and this is the final point. And this one was really interesting. I wasn't aware of this. So again, this is Jason Bloom. What makes the perfect demo from the BMI website. He says it's common practice for vocal levels to be mixed slightly louder in song demos than in recordings heard on the radio. I didn't know that I was aware of that. I don't know that I was aware of that. He says this practice, which is mostly prevalent in country music, helps an artist or a decision maker to clearly hear the words and the melody.
Yeah.
So again, this is especially for songwriters who are pitching their songs to potential artists. If you're creating a song demo, so you've written a really great song, you're not going to be the artist singing it, but you're hoping that a country star, and it doesn't have to be a country star, he's just saying that this is usually in the country genre, you're hoping that another artist is going to pick this up and record your song. You're going to mix your vocal or your session vocal, whoever is recording that, a little bit hotter in the mix so that that artist who's considering this can clearly hear the melody and hear the words and say, do I want to sing this? That's really interesting. So it's not the same mix that you would hear on the radio.
Makes a lot of sense.
But the artist is going to pick up on the melody and the words and say, yeah, I want to do that song. And they'll remix it then.
Right.
So those are some really cool, very interesting things about demos. Again, some of them were things that, I knew already. We've talked about. Some of them were new for me, hopefully new and helpful for you guys too as well. Yeah. So there's all kinds of different demos. First of all, decide what kind of demo you're creating. And then use these tips to help you to kind of fine-tune what you're doing for your demo. I also wanted to mention on our YouTube channel, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're already there. If you're just listening to the audio podcast, go to Notes by Our Music TV on YouTube. And under our playlist section of our videos, we do have a basic recording series, some videos we did a few years ago. One of them is basic tips for creating great demos. We talk about actual hands-on recording tips if you're doing it yourself, microphone placement, what types of microphones to use. There's also basic tips on there for recording vocals and instruments and for mixing great audio. So if you want some more information, check out our videos on our basic recording series on Notespire Music TV on YouTube. Yeah.
And if you've got a song that you want to make into a demo and you're really not sure what instrument should be on there, you're not quite sure how to produce that. Maybe you just only play guitar, but you know that this really needs some strings. This needs some keyboard. Reach out to us or someone else and get some thoughts on that. We've worked with artists many times that we help them to take a song that's just that may be just guitar and vocal or keyboard and vocal, and make that into a demo. Give you some tips on producing that, and so we'll be glad to help you out with that if we can.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have for this episode.
That is what we have.
We've packed a lot into this.
We've been a little long. We're but I hope you guys have hung in there with us. If you weren't able to, then maybe hopefully you came back to hear the rest of it. We always want to hear from you. So what would you like to know about? What would you like to know more about? Something we've touched on this episode or previous ones that you'd like to know more about, just reach out to us. info@notespiremusic.com is the email to use to get a hold of us. If you are interested in any of the other things that we do, want to be a sponsor of the podcast and Notespire Radio, which is at notespireradio.com, by the way. Our radio station, which is on 24/7. We'd love to have your music for the station. If you've already recorded something and you'd like to get it on the air, we'd love to consider it. We have a couple other podcasts. The Just Got Music Hour is one of them, and we'd love to have your music for that as well. And then we have the Artist
Insight.
Insight.
So if you're an independent Christian musician or artist out there, we'd love to interview you, play some of your songs, talk about your music, what the stories behind the music, talk about your ministry, and get you some new listenership on our fan base and also on all of our social media outlets.
Yeah.
So check that out at notespiremusic.com. We have some free and paid packages for that.
Amen. Yeah. All right. Well, hope this has been enlightening and fun and informative for you. And until we see you again, we do hope that you will take care of yourselves.
And take care of each other.
All right. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Artist Impact Podcast is a production of Notespire Music, LLC. At Notespire Music, we empower independent Christian musicians to grow their God-given music potential by refining their craft and extending their music ministry reach through mentorship, training, trusted resources, music production, and artist promotion. Notespire Music, helping you gain confidence, grow your talent, and advance your impact. For more information, visit notespiremusic.com. That's NOTESPIREMUSIC.com.